Hello and welcome to Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Podcast. My name is Simon Miller, and as you know, this is a pro wrestling podcast, the second one of 2019. If you didn't check out the first ever one of the new year, just go back a couple of days to Wednesday. It's on SoundCloud, iTunes, whatever Google's podcasting on, or you can have it at youtube.com/The Miller Report rules, and you can get your live fill of it there, or as live now as you go back. If you are a brand new listener, though, we do two a week. We do the one where we round up the wrestling news, and we also do today's one on a Friday, where I'm very lucky and very privileged and very honoured to be able to get people that support me on Patreon at patreon.com/SimonMiller316 onto the podcast and have a chat with them. And today, all the way from San Diego, and it always blows my brain, as I always say, when people are not in the UK, I don't know why, I'm old, clearly, is my man Cheval. Cheval, how you doing today?
I'm good, Simon. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. Dude. Thank you so much. I know it's like 10 a.m. where you are right now, so I appreciate you getting up and taking the time to do this with me, my friend.
It's my pleasure. And if people don't know, I know my name is a little bit, off. So Shovali is Israeli name. I'm originally from Israel, and I'm been like almost 10 years in San Diego. So there's that.
Well, that's amazing, dude. And obviously, and this is something we talked about before we get on, we're both Jewish, which I thought was cool. Just liked it, just did, because I'm just that kind of a person. I was like, yeah, Jew power.
Yes, the good guys. Yeah.
So just for my own personal interest, man, why did you move over to San Diego? Any reasons or?
So I finished my degree back in Israel when I was 28 because we served in the military. So I was in the military for 3 years, from 2000 to 2003. So and then you have time to, you don't have money, and you have to work, and then you need a break, and then you have to go to school. So I think here there's just more opportunities, and it's bigger, and opportunities just come one after another. So it's not exactly like Israel. Israel is more small. And there's less option there.
That's a cool story, man. I like stuff like that. It takes a lot to move to another country, man, because obviously everything's different. And 9 times out of 10, you're going somewhere we don't know anybody too.
It's crazy. I came here by myself. All my family were, it's still back home in Israel. And I met my wife 2 years later, and she's American. She's from San Diego. And we're expecting our first child.
That's amazing, dude. I love stories like that. Well, congratulations for that straight away. But that to me is awesome. That takes, well, for lack of a better term, that takes balls. I don't like that term. That's all I can think about. So I'll just go on that. And I love it, man. I love success stories when people take a chance, put themselves out their comfort zone, all that nonsense, and, manage to land on their feet. I think it's amazing. So that's cool, dude. I like that a lot. Going from that into some sad news, before we do talk about how you got into wrestling and stuff, literally like an hour after we'd finished the podcast on Wednesday, it did break that unfortunately Mean Gene Okerlund had passed away. Yeah. Now, I think you are going to have a very similar reaction to me, because I think we're around the same age. It's one of those ones where, look, it sucks when anybody dies in any kind of celebrity, but obviously the ones that mean more to you as a person, depending on what you grew up with, are always going to hit home a little bit harder. And this one for me, it always sounds bad when I say it, but I do think it's true. That's why I don't mind talking about it. One of the things I think, well, where the struggle comes from when, people from your heroes or, well-known figures from your childhood do die, is that you get quite introspective with it. And you're just like, wow, how the hell has that happened? Because for me, when I first started watching pro wrestling, Mean Gene, obviously, given how important he was to WWF, I never saw him before that, but how important he was to WWF was everywhere. Any kind of interview, any kind of backstage segment, or anything that was basically away from the ring that didn't feature Gorilla Monsoon or Bobby Heenan, he was there, or maybe Jack Tunney too. So, to get the news that he's passed away, I mean, he was mid-70s, which is old, but it's not super old. He's only 3 years older than Vince McMahon, which kind of sums it up. But yeah, it's just one of those things where, you see the news break on Twitter, and it just sucks. I mean, that's life. It's something we all have to deal with. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I started thinking about it. And he really was one of the best. You go back now, obviously there's clips all over the internet at the moment. He really, really was one of the best.
Mean Gene was a special man, and he delivered everything. He was so into it also.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
I was still a kid, and I was I was watching him and Hulk Hogan and everything. That's how I got to know him, as we say, through the screen. And he was just one of a kind. There's no, with the attitude, with all in, as we say. So Yeah, it's really, really sad. I heard about it yesterday, and I remember him going to WCW, and then and we can talk about it like a little bit later. But it was just like funny, and I'm like, oh, he's not supposed to be here. What is he doing here? He's supposed to be in WWF back at the time. So that was like very strange to me.
Yeah, I honestly though, I mean, we will talk about it in a second. Like you say, it's those kind of memories that that hit you. Like I remember him. My main memories are him. Yeah, interviewing people in a WWE ring or backstage, more sort of importantly. But then I've got those WCW ones of him talking to Ric Flair or having conversations with Tony Schiavone. Like it all kind of starts to unravel yourself, and you're like, man. But yes, it has happened. I mean, what can you do? That's especially if you're a wrestling fan, you're kind of used to deaths in the industry because there are so many. But at least, I shouldn't say at least, they're all bad. But at least this wasn't one that came too far out of left field. Obviously, Mean Gene, like I say, was in his mid-70s. But yes, it did break just a few hours after that. So we'd be remiss if we didn't mention it. But dude, you mentioned it there. Let's transition into happier and more positive conversation. I'm going to guess there's some kind of WWE versus WCW thing going on here. But look, tell me how you got into professional wrestling. Tell me, why the Sport Kings, as they say, managed to win you over. Because everybody always has a cool story, and I always love to hear it.
So yeah, I mean, I think I just turned on the TV one day, and I think it was probably before WrestleMania 9, and wrestling was on. I don't know who against who and what, but all the production and all the crowd and everything, just like everybody, I see everybody's like into it, and I see like cool moves, and I see all the superstars and all the reaction and everything. And I remember that my first really, really show that I sat down and watched was WrestleMania 9, which was the worst one ever. But for me, it was pretty entertaining. I mean, it was outside. It was, it has the atmosphere, in Las Vegas and all of that. Of course, years and years later, when you go back and you're like, oh, like almost every match end with like disqualification somehow, or whatever it is on WrestleMania, that's kind of strange. But it has like the star power. I mean, Hulk Hogan was there even after his prime, as we say, with the tag match, and then I'm a Bret Hart fan, so Bret versus Yoko, and it was pretty. I mean, I was pretty disappointed that I didn't see Bret Hart winning the world title for the first time because nobody saw it. So that was that. So he was just champion going into WrestleMania 9, but yeah, that was it.
I like that you said that as well. I think you touched on something quite interesting there because there's so many matches that I loved as a kid or that meant something to me as a kid. And then as you do grow up and you get into the internet and forums and stuff, you realize that the general consensus were that they sucked. And it's like, wait, what? Like my one is that I'm such a big fan of Austin versus Taker at SummerSlam 1998. And as I've learned now, Austin got concussed, and yeah, if you watch it, you can kind of see it. But it really does go to show the differences you do watch wrestling as you grow up to it, compared to where you are a child. Because I love that match. I remember, I've said this before, I remember jumping out of my seat and fist pumping when Austin won. I was that desperate for him to win. But by and large, today it's considered an absolute failure of a main event at SummerSlam. And so, yeah, you mentioned about the WrestleMania 9 and the whole Bret Hart thing. That's all it was about. All it was about is I like Bret Hart, therefore I'm going to enjoy Bret Hart's matches. The end. It didn't really go. It didn't really go further than that. So you get into that kind of. So obviously, you pick Bret Hart. Completely understand that because I did exactly the same thing. And how does it evolve? Because obviously, I know loads of people that got into pro wrestling. They don't watch it now. In fact, a lot of my mates that don't come to me just to get updates here and there. You're obviously still knee deep in it. So. Just give me sort of an understanding of how we went from sort of, mid-90s, early 90s to all the way where we are now.
So back then, really, I really knew that they're going to build Bret Hart. I mean, I know his loss at WrestleMania is going to come, and I'm talking as a kid. I'm really not, I don't know like anything in the industry and the backstage, politics and whatever it is. And then the reward came in WrestleMania 10. WrestleMania 10 was one of the best WrestleManias ever, I think, and that was Bret Hart's night, even though he lost, in the first match. But growing up in Israel, it's really, really strange because they're not really. I mean, they watched it a little bit, I think, in the mid-90s. I mean, some people, but it wasn't so popular. I mean, it was on the sports channel and whatever it is, and And believe it or not, building to WrestleMania 14 before the Austin era began, and before the Attitude era, Monday Night Raw before WrestleMania 14 was the last Raw aired in the sports channel in Israel.
Why? What happened?
They switched to WCW.
Of course they did. That is the best answer.
And I'm like, what? And I'm like, what's going on here? No, I want to see what's going on. There's no way for me to see it. I mean, I have to see the pay-per-view, and I'm like, okay, there's all this build-up, and now he's versus Shawn and Mike Tyson and all of that. Now I know WWE is pretty hot, but I don't want to see that because they're just like switching. So, in Israel, of course, back then they're a little bit late with everything. So, it was kind of funny. I mean, sad and funny.
So literally, just as Stone Cold Steve Austin was about to blow up, you get told you're not allowed to watch it anymore. We're going with World Championship Wrestling. Oh my
God! And lucky enough, I mean, I had my cousin because we were watching together. He's like my little brother. His name is Maor. So he was downloading stuff, from the internet, and we had to watch it in different ways. But it was it was months later, and it was, it wasn't like I saw it live or, and got excited like that. So,
but does that mean you just weren't able to watch Raw from that point on? So it just vanished from your TV screens?
It vanished from my TV for a few good years, and then we just kept on and just downloading Raw, and then in '99 the SmackDown, and then pay-per-views, and we were just him and I just I go to his place, and we know we're gonna download, we're gonna put it in the projector, if it's WrestleMania, if it's Royal Rumble, big events on full screen on, and that was an event for us, and because it wasn't on our sports channel. So
that's brilliant. That is what that's your own kind of screw job. That is. So So you start getting WCW. Do you watch it? I guess you do, right? Because you mentioned Mean Gene earlier. Do you just go, okay, well they've flipped a dime on me here, but I'll just go with it.
I'll go with it. I still like wrestling, and I still it's fine. I remember I was before it. I think it was high school or something, or even a little bit before that, and I did some things were very good, and something was just I didn't know what exactly was, because I know as a kid there's a difference between I'm watching this product and that product.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And of course I'm growing up and everything, and I also learned mass communication in college and everything. So everything is about production. I mean, Vince McMahon is a genius. Vince McMahon knows how everything inside and out about production, and I can appreciate it. Sometimes he's using it to cheat a little bit because the product is really not good, but the production around it is super, super good.
Yeah. So
everything was live and colors and red and everything and raw, and then you go to WWE and you see gray and black.
It's true, yeah.
And I'm like, what is this? Why is the ring smaller? What's going on here? Why, and why the rings sound different? So I'm like, so Goldberg basically saved them. And I did watch it. It was the only storyline that I can get behind, which is funny because when he came back a few years ago, one of my best friends here in San Diego, his name is Atlas, he was watching back then WCW, and he really liked Goldberg, and the only reason he turned in to watch Monday Night Raw right now was because of him.
Wow, well there you go. So that's a fan right there.
He's a fan, and he also, and you know what? And even if one person can make you, turn in and watch even for a few weeks, he also liked, it was back then it was Jericho and Owen, so he kind of liked that, and I really liked it. It was brilliant. But after he's gone and there's no more really interesting storyline, he has no purpose to watch it. So that's kind of sad.
That's not, especially as well, because at that, I mean, it's still the same now, but at that age, even more so, you're so invested in storylines and characters, and like you say, even the look of the show, to just pull a 180 on you like that is going to be jarring, to say the least. And because, yeah, look, it's also, when you're a kid, you kind of have allegiances too. Even though I would secretly go and, watch WCW when I knew they had a big angle, I wanted to see what was going to happen. My allegiances, my passion was with WWE. That's what I decided as a kid. It's the same with everything. I like video games, but Nintendo are my favorite console because I played Nintendo games as a kid. That's where it all comes from. And it's the same with that. So for all of a sudden one day to you to be told, and you're right as well, like I'm not saying WCW they did amazing things for the wrestling business, but you're right, in terms of the production, the way it looked, it did look like second rate. That's always been done. I mean, WWE is so good at production that, major sports companies watch what they're doing and borrow their ideas. I mean, that's happened with the NFL and who knows what else. I mean, I think some of the stuff the NFL news now is stuff that the XFL was doing in terms of camera work and production. So that is I don't know, I'm amazed you stuck with it for as long as you did, because when that happens, you are kind of just before the big internet boom, so you can't use all of that to stay up to date with it. I guess you just had to go out of your way to... So does that mean when you got back to WWE, Stone Cold Steve Austin had kind of risen and was flatlining a little bit?
Oh yeah. We had to watch back because I'm like, okay. And then at 2000, I joined the military, and before the military, I kind of... did my own things. I wasn't in my head to watch really wrestling. I mean, I was, a kid growing up, and I had like different things in mind, and really don't have time even to watch it sometimes because I was working, I was going out, I was doing stuff. So, and then when I did came back to it, we kind of took our time to go back then and then watch a few episodes a day just to catch up.
What? So you literally... this is amazing. Dude, this is dedication and then some.
Yeah. My cousin had he had the WWE Network before WWE Network. He was recording everything. He had everything on downloads and files and everything. Let's go to this here and let's watch that. Of course, we fast forward 80% of the things, but we just needed to catch on and to see measure storylines and stuff like that. And so that was that.
I guess at that point as well, you kind of tune in. You're like, oh man, who's this guy called The Rock? Who's this guy? This guy seems pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, wow, no. I see. Yeah, no. I've seen The Rock. I've seen Die Rocky Die. I've seen all of that, and then But yeah, when he took it to the next level, it was not. I didn't see that, and then I had to go back and watch that.
That's amazing, dude. That's an amazing story. That's why I always like doing these kind of chats, because that is. I can just imagine as a kid waking up and being like, wait, where's wrestling? I don't understand. What is this? Like, it's just so jarring because you get, especially even as an adult, it's true, but as a child, you get so used to routines and stuff like that. And then, oh man, that's absolutely brilliant. I love it.
And then I know that the Attitude Era was everybody was talking about the two main superstars, was Stone Cold and The Rock. And I think there's three. There's not two superstars back in the Attitude Era, and that's make everything much more interesting. It's Stone Cold, it is The Rock, and it's Vince McMahon.
Absolutely, man.
This character is not back on TV right now, just for the fun of it. He's missing on TV, and I think in the after he shaved his head or something, I don't know, it wasn't on TV for a long time, and you felt it. And you felt like Mr. McMahon is not here, and something is... I mean, I'm a business owner, and he's a business owner too. And when your product is not doing so good, you have to get yourself together. And especially when you are one of the best character ever in the history, you need to show up and change stuff.
It's true. I mean, I think the real testament to that character as well is, obviously it was overdone after a certain point, but he's just come back to TV. And I remember I was quite excited about it. And when he turned up on SmackDown that same week, and in subsequent weeks, I get a kick out of seeing him again. Like I don't think that's the answer to WWE's problems. And if the new era idea is just that Vince McMahon's going to be on TV, obviously that's not a long-term solution. But I think it is because of everything he did back then and everything he was able to achieve. It is exciting. Like he made his mark. It was as if. If somebody told me, Stone Cold Steve Austin's going to be back on TV for the next 2 months, I don't know what you can do with him. I don't know what he can achieve. But I know I'm going to tune in for that because, like you say, during the Attitude Era, one of the biggest times in the wrestling business, him, The Rock, and Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon, they were ahead of the game. They just were. And I think that's why nostalgia...
It's entertaining. I want to watch that, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's why when we talked about Goldberg. When Goldberg came back in 2016, I was so pumped for it. Because, you get the nostalgic run, which is the most powerful tool ever. Again, we mentioned video games. Nothing will ever be more important to me in the world of video games than Ocarina of Time, because I played it when I was a kid, and I loved it to such a degree. And that's the same, as soon as I hear Goldberg's going to come back, he's going to fight Brock Lesnar, they're going to make up for that WrestleMania 20 match. I'm going to watch it, because I can feel like I did back then. And it doesn't even matter. It's weird. Like, no matter what you're going through in your life, when good things happen, you just remember those good things. Everything else kind of falls by the wayside, which is why nostalgia is such a powerful tool. So I totally agree. Vince McMahon's contributions, not only behind the scenes, but in front of the camera, can't be overstated. And that's why, when he comes out and everyone's moaning about him on Squared Circle, people still go crazy for him. They love seeing him. People love seeing Vince McMahon.
I can literally, Raw a month and so ago, I think I talked to you about it before, that it was the most boring Raw in the history of Raw, and I almost didn't go to the live show in San Diego into the Raw. So, if you show me right now backstage of superstars going from the arena to the gorilla position and just interacting with Vince McMahon, I can watch 2 hours of that.
Yeah, true.
So, and that's, by the way, what, my wife is not really into the whole wrestling and the matches and everything, but more behind the scenes is more interesting, like the 365 and, and stuff like that, all the documentary behind the scene. It can be really, really, really interesting.
No, I do, but I think that's I never really fell out of love with wrestling, but that is absolutely what dragged me back in, where, when I learned about this whole backstage community and dirt sheets, and I was like, what on earth is this? It was like relearning how the wrestling business worked, which was it was absolutely incredible. No, that's absolutely. I think I would have been a fan regardless, but I don't know if I would have been as an intense a fan if I hadn't stumbled across all of that. Like, it really, when I learned about the Wrestling Observer, I was like, what on earth is this? Like, it's just telling me everything that I want to know about these people's lives. That doesn't seem right, and yet I can't get enough of it. It's like reality TV on paper. It's so strange. You mentioned you went to the San Diego Raw as well. We should talk about that briefly. Remind me which episode that was, and we'll go through it kind of quickly just to sort of get an understanding of what it is like to go to a Raw at the moment.
It was when Seth Rollins talking to Baron Corbin.
It was that one.
McMahon, and and just talking about how the show is bad and whatever. And I tell my wife, he's talking really to Vince McMahon. He's not talking to Baron Corbin. He's just there. And I'm like, that's kind of, you know what? If they acknowledge it, it's kind of cool. Don't treat us like we're idiots. At least you do that, which is good. But don't get to that point. You have enough money and you have enough. And that's what it's all about. It's about money. They have a lot of money, and for the next, you said until 2024 at least. But Monday Night Raw was great. It was great. Seth Rollins was over. Bayley and Sasha is also still very hot in the live crowd. Of course, they're not doing anything with them, and they broke them up. They just canceled their rivalry because of the tag championship. So. That's what I think, at least. And then, Monday Night Raw was actually pretty entertaining. It was pretty cool.
Did that surprise you? Because obviously you mentioned to me that you weren't sure about whether you wanted to go. And you decided to go, I just presume, because, you're a wrestling fan and it's in your hometown. And you still have to go through 3 hours. Like, it's still a bit of a slog, well, in terms of what a lot of people say. Do you think it just resonates better live at the moment than it does on TV? Because obviously a lot of people struggle with the TV portion of at the moment because it goes too long, it's too boring. But when you are there with a live atmosphere, another crowd around you, that's going to get your adrenaline going too.
I think I was in different Monday Night Raw, I think 2 of them here, and it felt really long. And I don't think they did so much to entertain us during the commercial breaks. I'm not talking during the match, when there is like between segments and stuff. So all the lights are out, and then the last one they just played different stuff on the Titantron, and it was interesting stuff. So it wasn't so bad. The 3 hours went back pretty quickly. Not always. It's not always the case.
Would you go to when they come back? Will you go back?
Say it again.
When they come back to San Diego, was it good enough that you won't second guess it this time and you'll just go?
Yeah, I literally, because it was the worst Raw, because when I was about to purchase the tickets, it was after the worst Raw ever 2 weeks before that, and I was like literally canceling. I did the whole process on tickets, whatever, and then I was just cancel. I really don't want to go just for the entrances, and then the day before Monday Night Raw, I'm like, you know what? I'll see. And it was half price. So I'm like, you know what? We'll do it. We'll do it as a night out. Me and my wife will go, you know, just to have a popcorn and a drink, and the wrestling is going to be in the background. So, but I'm happy that we went. It was nice.
So, in a way, you've kind of seen an historic show to a certain degree, because that was the last one. You know, I think that was the one that got the lowest rating ever, or whatever, or, you know, down there in the doldrums before Vince McMahon decided to get back. So you kind of saw the end of an era and hopefully the start of a new one. What do you think about all the changes they're making at the moment? You know, Vince McMahon is back, Shane McMahon, Triple H, definitely hasn't been on TV that much, but she's part of it. Obviously, we're introducing new superstars. As I've said a lot of my What Culture videos, and I stand by it, and I'm happy to be proven wrong down the line, although I'll be upset if that does happen. I still think we've got to wait kind of to a good few weeks to know where we're at with all of this. But, you know, what's your take on it at the moment? Do you like where it's going? Do you find WWE watchable? Do you feel like we need a change? Are you excited about the Royal Rumble? There's loads of questions, but, I mean, do you trust them, I guess, is my big question.
I agree with you. It will take some time. It will take, you know, those kind of changes doesn't happen in a week or two. It takes time and the build up, and we have to be invested in a certain superstar, you know, after, you know, the bad news about Roman and everything. So we need to get behind someone. Not that we got behind Roman Reigns, but, you know, now Vince don't have a choice, and you have to put someone else over. It happened before, and WWE was pretty boring until the summer of 2011. And then CM Punk came.
Yeah.
So I was there. I mean, and it's kind of funny because I will take you a little bit back. My cousin, back in the ECW version, the WWE version of ECW,
yeah.
CM Punk was there, and my cousin used to watch everything. He watched Monday Night Raw, he watched SmackDown, and he watched also ECW. I think he's one of the few. Yeah. So. And he told me, oh, you have to watch it and this and that. And there is like some things that are pretty interesting. There's the guy there, CM Punk. I really like him. I don't know why, but I like him. He's kind of cool. He's doing this. He's doing cool kicks and cool moves. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll watch it. And since then, we were both fans of CM Punk, which was kind of weird. But he wasn't still there. And then I was really, really happy that all the, you know, the pipe bomb and everything. And CM Punk is one of my favorite wrestlers. I mean, by far.
I mean, it's a somewhat loaded question, but do you actually think he'll ever come back? I mean, I think if it's ever going to happen, we're talking about 10 years minimum, or maybe 5 to 10. You know, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, because when you hear and speak to him in interviews, he doesn't seem to have any kind of interest whatsoever, and not in a fake way. He seems genuinely quite, I don't want to say upset, but he doesn't want to come back to wrestling anytime soon. I mean, we're going to transition to talk about this in a second. We may as well do it now. Yeah, well, you know, all Elite Wrestling, right, is such a strange venture to me in the best possible way. Because I can see that being somewhere that CM Punk would end up, because it's a wrestling company run by wrestlers. And that's not really something that's been talked about a lot. I was thinking about this the other day, but I do think that changes the game a lot. And the fact that this Tony Khan guy, who's, you know, very well off dude, obviously a massive wrestling fan. If you go on Squared Circle at the moment, somebody has gone and found one of the house show reports he said to Dave Meltzer about, you know, 12 years ago, whenever it was. So it goes to show that, you know, it's almost like a fan and a bunch of wrestlers are making a wrestling company. I know you can say that about WWE in the sense that Triple H is in charge, but it's different. It just is. The fact they're building it off the ground allows it to be much more free, much more open, and it's brand new, so you're not going to be dragged down by anything in the past. But so I mean, a double question there, really. Do you see CM Punk coming back to any kind of wrestling? And what is your take on all Elite Wrestling? I mean, are you someone that watches more wrestling than just WWE, or, you know, what's your outside of the WWE wrestling like?
I think he's still burned out. I don't think he's going to come back, not anytime soon. Every time that I'm telling my wife, like, you know, once a month, oh, guess what happened? Like last night, she's like, CM Punk is back? No. Okay, so I don't care. So it's you know, it's kind of a private joke. So it's I don't think he's going to come back. WWE like did enough to him, so he's still away for at least the next 4 or 5 years. I will be surprised. I think everybody will be if he's going to come back. And as far as the wrestlers are going to control the organization. I mean, it's good news that there's something else out there. I mean, besides WWE, since 2001, but it's not going to survive if the wrestlers are going to book their own storylines.
That's a very good point, actually. Yeah,
it happens in WCW, and we saw what happened with Kevin Nash and with with everybody else, and Hulk Hogan. Everybody has like a the guarantee contract and whatever it is, and the booking. So it's not going to. When you have one boss and when you have one man and Vince McMahon, for the good and the bad, it can go a little bit further. Yes, they're going to be around for a little bit, but if the wrestlers, at some point, everybody will want to be over and everybody wants something, and why him and not me, and all the politics, and it's not going to survive.
That is true, and they're going to have to balance that well, because obviously Cody Rhodes is integral to that backstage. Apparently, the Young Bucks are going to be in charge of that stuff. I like to think that they seem like very self-aware wrestlers, and I think that was the problem in the early 2000s, or the late 90s, I should say. No one seemed to be self-aware. I mean, especially people at WCW. They were killing their own company, and they didn't even notice. I like to think that kind of Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Hangman Page, Kenny Omega represent a kind of new generation of wrestlers where they know what they're doing, they understand the game, but they're not trying to rip each other's heads off. But I do think you're right. There needs to be... The Bucks got to stop with somebody. The irony, the Bucks got to stop with somebody. But, without that, you're right. We've seen what could happen. And again, people can prove you wrong, but you never know. I mean, do you watch stuff like New Japan of Ring of Honor?
Unfortunately, no. I mean, it's funny because WWE have so much contact that I don't have time. I still work. I'm busy as is. And when I do watch, I watch Raw, I watch the pay-per-views. And if I do have time, I always catch up on NXT because I think it's brilliant.
And loads of people say that. I totally understand why you don't have the time or even the inclination to watch other stuff because, like you say, there is so much WWE. And I think that's what NXT exists to do, right? You probably get what you would get from New Japan or Ring of Honor or whatever by watching NXT because it's very different to the main product and does feel like an indie show, for lack of a better term.
It's very, very, very different. And I'm not watching Monday Night Raw or SmackDown live. I mean, here on the West Coast, I mean, it's 8 p.m. It's already recorded. Like, the people already have the results and stuff. So I'm always it's on the DVR, and I'm always starting to watch like an hour or 2 hours after that. So I will, no commercials and stuff because I don't have the 3 hours to watch it. So
no, of course, man.
Yeah. So that's about that. And then the pay-per-views, I do watch it pretty much live, pretty much if I can. But NXT, I think a few weeks ago I was back. We went to the NXT after my birthday. It was on July. Like it was we went to the NXT show, so I had to watch. I didn't watch like 8 episodes or 7 episodes, so I had to watch everything just to catch up on the NXT show. So and then I'm watching it and I'm like, I should watch more NXT. It's actually pretty cool. Triple H is doing very great stuff there. I'm sad to see that it's not transitioned to the main roster with Gargano, with Ciampa. I mean, it's amazing, really, really. The matches are very good with Aleister Black and all the storyline that was, and now the DIY. It's super, super interesting. It's amazing product, amazing.
How was the NXT show compared to watching Raw? Because obviously you get a very different experience. I mean, was it an NXT? It would have been just a house show, I'm guessing, right?
It was a house show, yeah. Not in a very, very big venue, but still people, it was nice amount of crowd. And it was wrestling fans. They reacted. It was not too long. It was not boring. I mean, they had like a break in the middle, which was kind of weird for me. But everybody had fun. It was well done. And speaking of house shows, I think people every time that I'm doing it just bothered me like so much about the Saudi Arabia 2 pay-per-views that they the Crown Jewel and Super whatever it was. I mean, people have to understand. Just Vince McMahon got a lot of money for that, and it's just a house show showed on the WWE network. It's not part of the pay-per-views. It's not part of anything. Stop people like making like too big of a deal about it. Just let them have the fun, or in the middle. I'm from Israel. I know how it's like. We have the Middle Eastern attitude, and we have this. I mean, I know. They want something, and they're just gonna offer you like a lot of money. Okay, take a few millions and whatever, and then come here, and I want to see this, and I want to see that. Perfect. Vince McMahon is going to say that. I mean, but the first hour that I've seen the first show, I'm like, this is a house show.
Oh yeah. Oh
this
no question.
Everybody yeah. So it is a house show. It's aired on a WWE network, and that's that. People just took it to the extreme, like the messed up WrestleMania or something. It's Crown Jewel. I don't even consider it like a pay-per-view, so it's all good. He's got the money. They got their entertainment. We watch it on the network. Sure.
That's really interesting, man, because obviously not a lot of people had that take, and I always like hearing from both sides of the coin because I find it interesting. How do you feel about that deal going forward? Because obviously the plan is to go twice again this year and next year and year after that. I guess in your mind it's just entertainment. They should just go and get it done.
I mean, I know the WWE network eventually in a few years will air also like live shows, and Vince will put some cameras there and everything. It's house shows. If you want to watch it, watch it. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. It's there.
Did you see Shane McMahon get crowned best in the world?
Of course I did. I was like, you know what? I didn't know if it was a work, if it was a shoot. Like, what's going on? Because Miz really, did the whole thing with his leg there, and I'm like, wait, what's going on here? And why did Shane McMahon? You know what? It was so bizarre to me that I kept watching, and I was laughing, and it was like, you know what? It's dumb, but I'm watching it anyway. But it is what it is,
Oh,
okay.
dude, I'm with you, man. It's a tough thing to talk about because everything we've just touched upon. But if someone said to me, "What made you laugh more than anything in 2018 WWE?" It was when Shane McMahon won. And that's not for anything else. Like, take the context out of it, whatever. I sat here in the very same chair I'm in now, and I was in tears because I couldn't believe the WWE had gone to such length to put on this huge tournament. And then there were so many other questions as well. Like, what if John Cena had been in it? Were we still going to job John Cena out to become, to get to have Shane McMahon be the best in the world? I laughed at it so much, I actually forgot that we still had DX versus the Brothers of Destruction. I thought that was the end of the show. And then they started coming out. I was like, oh man, yeah, we're doing that as well. Oh man, it made me laugh. What a wonderful thing that really was.
That was one of the worst matches. I don't want to see any of them again. And it's a house show, and I'm always reminding myself, Cheval, you don't have to watch it. It's all good. It's only a house show. You can turn it off whenever you want. It's only for their crowd, and it's only for the money, so you don't have to watch it. It's not going to indicate anything for the future reference. But the best in the world thing, you know what? Whatever came out of that is the Miz and Shane McMahon. I know, because I've been watching, and I'm I know you're not a big fan of those two. Of the storyline and whatever, even though you gave it up for the last segment. But for me, Shane McMahon coming to his music and then the Miz starting to imitate him, and it makes me laugh a little bit, and I like laughing, and it's good.
That's good attitude, man. I like that, and I totally get that too. And I think that's when WWE really shines, is that some things will make when I'm watching it, for example, some things that I know nobody else is laughing at make me laugh, and because of that I enjoy the show more. And really, they're the best parts of wrestling. When I turn it on, I'm just laughing in spite of myself, like, this is so dumb. But it's weird. I was listening to some other podcasts and stuff, and everybody seems to have turned on the Miz Shane McMahon angle from the other day. I like it. I actually thought that the best thing they'd done was everything with the costumes, the Miz acting a bit like a kid, and Shane McMahon being more like, this is preposterous, what am I doing? I thought there was something there. I don't know my big thing with it, I don't know where they're going with it. I don't know what the long-term plan with it, what it is, but no, anything that makes people laugh, I'll never... It's like Dave Meltzer always sums it up brilliantly when he goes to watch a wrestling show and he says, I personally didn't like it, but all the crowd were chanting and going crazy, and therefore it was the right thing to do. What? That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
I agree with you, and you know what? I don't want to know where it's going. Let them have it. As a fan, I want to be, because some storylines, where it's going to end, and you already know the outcome and everything, and just let them, just don't screw it up and do something super, super horrible. Like, do something entertaining that I can get behind. I really don't know what's going to happen next week. I don't know what's going to happen in the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania or how far they're going to take it. But as long as you entertain me, do it and do it right. I mean, Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens were amazing. By the way, Kevin Owens is really, really missing on the show.
Oh, man,
and speaking about Kevin Owens, I do want him to come back at the Royal Rumble and win it, because the Royal Rumble became, I mean, growing up, there's a few things that it's missing for me as a kid, and I think it's also valid for now. Is the Royal Rumble winner. Because I watched back then Stone Cold Steve Austin in '98 winning the Royal Rumble, and the Austin era began, and then maybe Chris Benoit was a little bit after that, but everybody can't remember that anymore because it's not mentioned anymore, and I get it. But these days, there's not really like the upcoming superstar that he will take the torch and go on to main event WrestleMania. It happened to Daniel Bryan, but he wasn't even in the Royal Rumble, which was kind of it was weird. But so I want the Royal Rumble winner to be, because now they have to split it. It's one Money in the Bank winner and the Royal Rumble throughout the year. So it's kind of so they have two opportunities throughout the year, which I get it. But WrestleMania, of course, is the main stage, and also I want them to use the Intercontinental Championship as a stepping stone to being a great superstar and going to the main title.
Oh man, absolutely.
They're not really doing that, and I mean, they even took it off. I mean, at some point, and I don't know. It's for me, I still want it to be. I mean, the guy that will win it, I know he's going eventually to be the champion. In a year, like Stone Cold, like Bret Hart, and. You get what I'm saying. No,
dude, I'm with you, man. Like we are talking about new eras and what we can do differently. I think making the titles mean something again is important. It's why the Universal title at this stage. I've discussed Brock Lesnar at length. I don't need to do it again. I don't mind Brock Lesnar, but I do mind the fact that Universal title has been off TV more than it has been on it, and that does affect the legitimacy and the worth of the thing. And I would like it that every time I see an IC title match, every time I see a US Championship match, tag team title, women's title, whatever, I know it's something to care about, because that's what I've been. That's what I've been taught. So I do think we need to do that. I'd absolutely like to see them come back. I think the Royal Rumble winner this year is an interesting one, because I'm like you. If Kevin Owens came back and won it, I would be ecstatic. I think that would be the best thing they can do. And what a way to fire him up before the year's even just starting. But I don't know. I think you could argue it for Seth Rollins. You could argue it for Drew McIntyre. You could argue it for Braun Strowman. I mean, I know that he's in the main event match at the Royal Rumble, but they've done that before. Like, there are so many different things that you can come up with. There's not really a surefire winner for me. But then again, if you had asked me 12 months ago, did I think Shinsuke Nakamura was going to win? I'd say no, absolutely not. But I like that. I like going into these big matches not knowing who's going to win. That's when wrestling's at its best, because you'll buy in and you'll be confused. And maybe we've got some surprises there as well. I don't know who that would be. But you just never know. Again, I never saw AJ Styles coming a few years ago, and he did.
I was in St. Louis last year. It was a year and a half ago. It was Money in the Bank, and that was that moment. I was at the live show. I was there, and then it was that moment. There was AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. They say at the ring, and they put the ladder on the side, and then you was just like face to face, and all the crowd just lost it. And then that's where WWE decided, okay, that's going to be the main event at WrestleMania. And I knew it. So I was happy that Shinsuke won the Royal Rumble. And then I was so happy that, because I know, okay, maybe Vince McMahon changed his mind about not American, champion or whatever. And then he lost it. And then he loses like 15,000 times.
Of course he did.
Okay. I mean, what are you doing? You just made the whole crowd very happy and everything. I mean, the turn heel was okay and everything, but it wasn't a payoff. He didn't even win the championship after that.
Yeah, no, I mean, heel turns in WWE in general have been bizarre. I sat down the other day to try and figure it out. There's so many you can go through and question. I wrote a list somewhere. Let me see if I can find it quickly, because it is quite, when you actually go through it, it is a bit like, so I don't know why I did this. I'm just a weird person, but obviously, Becky Lynch obviously had a heel turn, right? But it didn't work because she got cheered. I mean, there's no two ways about it.
That was the best thing ever.
I mean, it was great, but in terms of a heel turn, it didn't work. That's
true.
They turned Ambrose, and they tried to use the Roman Reigns news to make it make him a bigger bad guy, but it didn't. He feels as he just feels like a bad guy. Doesn't feel like a super bad guy or anything like that. Charlotte has moved around from face to heel at least 3 times over the last 12 months. Braun Strowman, as we forget, was a heel with Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler for about 4 weeks. Aiden English turned heel, and that killed his TV run. Nakamura obviously went heel at WrestleMania, and we know that he kind of went off the peg a bit. Lashley went heel. He didn't do much. Nia Jax, both a face against bullying, and then became a heel because she was a bully, and obviously the whole Sasha Banks and Bayley thing never went anywhere. So WWE, other than Daniel Bryan's most recent heel turn, which I'm really enjoying, has actually kind of botched. It's kind of botched all of their heel turns over the last year, and I found that quite incredible. And maybe that's something they need to balance out a bit. I know the whole shades of grey thing, yeah, but I much rather maybe now go back to a point where we have a bit more defined good guys and bad guys. Because I think when you blur the lines too much, and like Charlotte, for example, I don't know what Charlotte is at the moment, and I think I'd much rather know what her character should be. I think you can go too far with that shades of grey thing, basically. But yeah, the heel turn in the WWE, it happens on a whim. I mean, Big Show came back for a month, turned heel, then left again. And I still have no explanation as to why that happened. I don't think I'm ever going to get one. Same with Carmella. Carmella went face just because she was hanging out with R-Truth. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll just go with it. So, yeah, it's very, very strange how they do that.
I'm always reminding myself it's a very big company. You don't know anything going on backstage, and injuries and politics, and some guys is doing this, some guys doing that, and this guy is being arrested and he has to go off. So we don't know. We don't know everything, which I get it. I mean, sometimes they have to do what they have to do, and that's fine. But you're absolutely right, and I think everybody wanted Roman Reigns to turn heel. Me too. I know Vince McMahon is not going to, because what's the purpose of turning someone heel? Is to boo him.
Yeah.
If they're going to turn Roman Reigns heel, they're going to cheer. Because they've been booing until now. So that's one, and they were never going to do it. Whoever needs to do a heel turn is Finn Balor. Because Finn Balor got like a super mega push when he came from NXT. He was at NXT for 2 years, and then he came to the main roster. The first pay-per-view, he won the Universal Championship. And then he comes back after the injury, and he is one of the mid-cards. I mean, I was pretty sure that Vince is going to still push him, and he's not pushing him, and I really don't know why, because he's still over, and people still like him. And my wife likes him because he has because his gear and everything, so supporting the gays and the community and everything. So and he's likable, and he's this. Turning him heel is perfect, and then go behind him, and then do the Balor Club, and then do the Bullet Club, and then do whatever you want, and then you have the men to do it. You can bring Gallows and Anderson with you, and even AJ Styles do a very big group, even though Vince doesn't like big groups anymore, like DX or whatever it is. But still, something will. It's interesting. It's something happening, and then you have a lot of options to go with a lot of. With a lot of wrestlers. That's my personal opinion.
No, dude, I agree. I think someone like Finn Balor as well needs it. They're the kind of people you should look at. Because like I say, I think that's why a heel turn would work. Because even though his momentum has been kind of shot in the foot recently, because they just don't do anything with him, at the same time, people do still like him. He just has this innate quality which people will warm to. So if you now kind of switch that, and all of a sudden make him a bad guy, I think people would react really well to that. I mean, they're saying they're going to push Finn Balor. I didn't see any evidence of that on the last episode of Raw. But again, I'm happy to wait and see what happens over the next few weeks. But yeah, I think people like Finn Balor absolutely need a heel run. I mean, there'll be other people I can't think of the top of my head now. But yeah, I don't understand why they don't do that. Like, if they're not doing anything with Finn Balor, and you've already maybe Vince McMahon doesn't know what he did in New Japan. I don't know, but I absolutely think that's an area you at least want to touch upon. So, and look, it's more options down the line. A Finn Balor heel run, I think, would be great, especially if you put him in a stable, replicate everything he did in New Japan. I think that'd be great. I think that'd be absolutely awesome.
Yeah, and then we have the call-ups from NXT also, and I'm trying to think about what's going to make me more interesting in 2019. And we have Lars Sullivan, and we have, I think Lacey Evans is going to be like a nice twist to that. There's something in her, and then Lars Sullivan is just a big guy. They're going to give him a big push. I'm pretty I'm pretty bored about it. I mean, all the canes and the choke slams and the and then this, and I mean, it's not gonna be. I mean, I've seen it. He has to be really, really different. I think he's a little bit more quicker and more athletic than others. And if they're not going to use that and being just a monster like Braun Strowman, I mean, Braun Strowman's finishing move is a power slam. I mean, I don't buy it. They have to change something in that also. I mean, it's just not. It's just that it doesn't do it. I mean, finishing moves in general, and that's why I started hating John Cena back then because of the AA or whatever it is, and then because it just I'm not sold. It's not, the stunner was very powerful. I think they have to make Becky Lynch something with not a submission finishing, and I don't know. That's my take.
No, I know what you mean. Braun Strowman's a weird one for me because I don't know what it is, but I'm not as enthused about him as I once was. Like, there's just I don't know what it is. There's something missing now. Maybe we just missed the boat with him. Maybe it's one of those things where we should have changed plans and pulled the trigger. Obviously, I remember at the Elimination Chamber last year, the big problem was we were trying to both protect Braun Strowman, but also make sure that Roman Reigns got over. That was really,
exactly.
that was really difficult. And I think maybe us trying to do that did derail Braun a little bit because I'm certainly not as interested as I once was. And I do agree with you about finishing moves as well. The best thing they're doing on TV at the moment that nobody is talking about is the dirty deeds is devastating. Like, whether or not you like it as a move, every time Dean Ambrose hits that, he wins. No one ever kicks out of it. And slowly but surely, I'm starting to believe in it more. It is like the DDT when Jake Roberts used to have it. And that's a new era, new times, new beginnings. That is something else I'd like to see. Absolutely agree with you with the range of moves, but also moves that have impact and actually will win matches. We don't get that anymore.
This is the only thing that Dean Ambrose is doing correct these days is his finishing move, and it's getting over and everything, and he's executing it pretty good. All the rest, he's trying to get into the new character and everything, and I'm trying to get behind it. But ever since the Shield broke the first time, I think they turned the wrong guy heel. I think Roman Reigns should turn heel back then, but Dean Ambrose is just lost in the shuffle, and I think he's charismatic. On the other hand, he's not really. I don't want to see a full match of 20 minutes of Dean Ambrose, if it makes sense. I will fast forward for most of it. And that would happen also with Seth Rollins. Even Seth Rollins cannot save Dean Ambrose match, if it makes sense. And I'm sorry for Dean Ambrose. That I'm saying it. I think he's a hard worker and everything, after the injury and stuff like that. But he's not. It doesn't have it yet.
Yeah, dude. That's the best thing about wrestling, right? You can have conversations where there's just disparaging opinions. You don't really know why. That's the coolest thing about wrestling. So one person's hero can be the other one's, I don't get it. I shrug your shoulders. I don't, my guy, like you just said, somebody I always respected and already, I could see why other people liked him. But personally, I never got into was Jeff Hardy. And that's the same to this day. I never understood the love of Jeff Hardy. Never got it. It was just lost on me. And I don't know why. I can't tell you. I could tell that he was talented. And I don't think that, he got anything he didn't deserve. But from a fan point of view, I was like, yeah, whatever. I can take him or leave him. And I don't know why. I can't explain it. But that's why I love wrestling. And that's why I think the conversation...
Today you know?
Sorry?
Today you know?
No, I don't. He's just not my guy. He's just not my guy. I don't have that connection that other people have. But he's an incredible guy when it comes to that connection because he's never lost it. Throughout all his trials and tribulations and all the, difficult things he's gone through, he's never lost that connection with the fans. And I find that incredible because I'm not one of them. I almost feel like I've missed out a little bit.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So there are a few things I do want to talk about before we do wrap up, because actually one of them is quite interesting. There's some rumours going around today, and look, I think they're fairly ridiculous rumours, but I'll mention them as I always do on the show. Basically, Goldberg, this is why I want to talk about it, because you mentioned Goldberg earlier. Goldberg just so happened to follow all of the All Elite Wrestling accounts today on Twitter.
Oh my God.
Now, the way I see it is this, right? If you are going to try and do a big surprise and you're bringing in Goldberg, I don't think he goes follow them on social media. I think he does the opposite of that, and he stays really quiet because you want a big surprise. However, let's say there is something into that, and let's talk about your mate that loves Goldberg. Is he such a Goldberg fan that he would go out of his way to watch a brand new wrestling company if Bill Goldberg was in it?
I think he will give it a shot. He will give it a shot if he see that it's interesting. He will keep watching. If they're gonna mess it up and he's like, no, no, that's not for me. And he's more of he's a UFC freak, so he's watching everything with the UFC. He loves Brock Lesnar, by the way, because of the UFC, and
I can imagine,
he knows them from the UFC, so it's kind of funny. And I told him, I know him since 2002. But yeah, I mean, I think people will give it a try, but they have to produce a good product. I mean, look how many good superstars in the WWE right now, and it's not a good product.
Yeah, no, too true, man. 100% true. 100% true.
And they have all the production and the money and the TV time and they, I don't know. It's a little bit annoying that and then people. I'm thinking about it. Okay, maybe they'll ask me what I will, but I don't know what to do. Also, I'm not a writer. I'm not a booker. I'm not a. I mean, I have maybe a few ideas what to do. Big pictures and everything, but I don't know exactly how to save it. So I'm giving them another chance, and there's a lot of chances.
No, but that's what we do. I get that, man. But you're right. A lot of people will say, "Oh, what would you do?" And it's like, well, again, I have my own ideas, but that's not really my decision. I just know what I am being shown I don't like. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. And the last thing I want to talk about as well before is this is something I think we could. Anyway, the rumor is basically that Vince McMahon wants to change up the New Day. What that entails, we don't know.
Thank God. I don't know. I didn't read about it. Okay.
Yeah, but that's all we know. All we know is the rumor is that apparently Vince McMahon has sat down and said, look, we need to do something with the New Day. What do we do? Now, that could be breaking them up. That could be keeping them together, but putting Big E on a singles push. It could be all manner of things. But I actually think now is probably the time to do it. This is what I was thinking about. Like, when I started watching them on SmackDown, and I will admit they did win me over. I actually thought their promo they cut was quite funny. But it does feel like, not for any fault of their own, just because it's just time. Everything has a shelf life. I don't necessarily think you have to break them up, but I do think they need something different, be that turning them heel or changing up in some fashion. But what I mean, they've been around for sort of, it must be almost 4 years, I would guess. What do you want to see, man? Like, if you could change the New Day right now.
Yeah, I know they're having fun, and I know when they came as heels at the beginning, I'm like, no, this is like too good to be true. I mean, they have to change, and that they did. They saw the potential, they changed it. They're having fun. We're having fun because they're having fun, and it doesn't sound so scripted, even though it is. But they just, and they lately they've been stretching it. I thought they're going to split them up months ago. Even last year, but this year it sounds very good to me. Turn Big E heel, and then let him win the Royal Rumble, and that can be interesting. And then, but we also have Daniel Bryan as a great heel, so I don't know. He's doing a great job either way.
Would you break them up, or would you keep them together and just let them? You'd actually 100% break them up so they feud with each other and stuff.
100%.
They have.
But I can tell you that. But Kofi has been in the company for a long, long time. He will lost in the shuffle at some point, and then Xavier Woods still maybe has the potential maybe to stay in the mid card title, whatever it is. But Big E can make it.
Do you think that Big E will ever get a run as a world champion?
I hope so.
I hope so, but I just can't see it at the same time. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I want it to be true. I think he deserves it, but I don't know. I'm listening to Stone Cold podcast a lot, and it's all about getting a relationship with Vince McMahon still. And then if he has a good relationship with him, and if he's, because I know like R-Truth is still in the company, he's still getting like TV time, and he's a great, friends with him. So I hope that he does. As a babyface or as a heel, choose whatever you want, even both. I think it deserves it. I mean, all of them are doing a very, very good job in the last 4 years. So, yeah, no, I just looked up as well. They've been around for 5 years in July. 5 years.
I don't want to see them as tag team champions again.
No, I don't. That's the thing. What do you do with them? That was my big thing. When I sat down and thought, what do you do with them? I don't know. I don't know what you do. They've run their course in a good way. They're awesome as heels, awesome as faces. But like I just say, and you can't, nothing lasts forever. Not just in wrestling, but in entertainment, in life. You just eventually you hit a roadblock. And there's nothing you can do. You just go, it's time to change it up. So I actually hope they do that. I hope that is true. We will wait and see. So my last question to you, man, before we do wrap this up, it's nice and simple, but I always like to know. I think I've got an idea. Favorite wrestler of all time. If you're going to pick one, who would you pick?
Is that a serious question?
Yes, I like that question because it would change. It would change on a whim.
It's Bret Hart for the longest time. If CM Punk was still in the company, it would probably be CM Punk, but Bret Hart still.
No, I like that, man. It's always the way. Always one new, always one old. But yeah, that's why we got on so well, man. It's the Bret Hart love. I knew
Bret Hart is just like it felt like more like a sport. It felt like it was matter to him. It was more real. Everything was. He didn't talk during his matches. I know everything is predetermined, and it's not really. And he's protecting the other wrestler. But I appreciate it, and he delivered it. I think in the best way. Stone Cold would tell you the same thing. That he got him over too. I think he should have been after. He should have been backstage there and help them be an agent with like matches and stuff, and they didn't do it. And I think they should use a lot of wrestlers with brains like Bret Hart more to produce great matches.
No, I agree, man. I think that's why a lot of people like NXT. NXT feels like a sport. I think that's why a lot of people like New Japan. New Japan feels like a sport, and obviously Ring of Honor does too. And I think hopefully bringing a bit of that onto the main roster would do well. We're waiting to see.
Tommaso Ciampa, by the way, I'm sorry, but Tommaso Ciampa is just like he's giving really, really the value for the title. For the
absolutely.
He's doing a great job, and I hope the main roster will do the same. Because otherwise, why will we watch it? We don't need to follow you if you don't have something to chase for.
Yeah, exactly. The whole point is all these people. I know there's other things that go on, but the overwhelming thing is all these people want to win a belt, and if the belt doesn't mean anything, how can we buy into it? So true. So true.
No,
100%.
That's true.
There we go. We'll wrap it up there. Perfect, my man. I like it. Well, look, dude, thank you so much for your time again. Is there anything you want to plug? You never have to, but I always like to give people the opportunity. You can put your Twitter out there or whatever, or you can say, no, I don't want to do it.
No, I mean, for now, I mean, I probably this year I will do something with wrestling. I don't know if it's a podcast or something like that, like in the future, like for this year. But it will happen, and then when it will, I'll have you as a guest also. And I will talk to you soon.
Done, my friend. Well, look, stay in touch. We'll definitely get you back on in a month or so. See what's up. Especially if you go to another show. Definitely let me know. Go to another show. And we'll get you back on.
Oh, by the way, I am going to the Royal Rumble with my wife before the birth. She's gonna be because my child is gonna be the end of March. So the end of January is gonna be It's gonna be her first pay-per-view inside this. So yeah, I'm gonna go to the NXT and I'm gonna go to the Royal Rumble and not Monday Night Raw because NXT is much better. And then I really, really hope it's gonna be my first Royal Rumble. I really, really hope it's gonna be a great show. I do have a good feeling about it. And I'm waiting for Kevin Owens.
Well, there we go, dude. Done. We'll get you on after the Royal Rumble to get a first-hand live experience of the show. I like that. I like that a lot. Done. Awesome. Thank you, man. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Simon316, Instagram at Simon316. Also, all these podcasts are on YouTube at youtube.com/The Miller Report Rules. And again, all supported by patreon.com/Simon316. If you are listening on iTunes, give us 5 stars, give us a rating, give us a review. It all helps. But that's it for this week in terms of wrestling podcasts. I also do a gaming podcast in case you're interested in the week in gaming, so go check that out. Otherwise, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy Wrestle Kingdom 13 that does air later today, or could even be on right now by the time this goes up with Japan's time difference. Enjoy that, but most importantly, I'll talk to you all again soon.